The phone slipped in his hand. It didn't fall hard, but the sound it made against the cafe table in Geneva was loud enough to make him freeze. His eyes stayed locked on the screen. Unread message. From the company. From him. From his father-in-law. The CEO. He didn't open it immediately. For a second, he just stared at it, like if he waited long enough, it would disappear or change. "Are you okay?" his wife asked, her voice soft, careful. He looked up at her slowly. She already looked tense. That was the first thing that didn't sit right. Yeah, he said, but his voice didn't sound like his own. "Just work." She nodded too quickly. "Then don't check it," she said. "You promised, remember? No work this week." He forced a small smile. Yeah, no work. But his thumb had already tapped the screen. And everything changed. 6 years. That's how long he had worked without a real break. 6 years of early mornings, late nights, answering calls at 2 a.m., canceling plans, missing birthdays, postponing everything that felt like living. And all of it, every bit of it, was for that company. His father-in-law's company. People always assumed it was easy for him. "You married into success," they'd say. "You're lucky." They didn't see the pressure. They didn't see the way the CEO looked at him in meetings. Never impressed, never satisfied. They didn't hear the constant reminders. "You have more to prove than anyone else here. You don't get special treatment. You earn your place." So he did. Every single day. He worked harder than everyone else, stayed longer, said yes to everything. And slowly, painfully, he climbed. Not because he was the boss's son-in-law, but because he refused to be seen as anything less. That's why this trip mattered. It wasn't just a vacation. It was the first time in over half a decade that he had been told, "Take time off. You've earned it." Even his father-in-law had approved it personally. That alone felt like a win. So when his wife suggested Geneva, he didn't hesitate. "Let's go somewhere quiet," she said. "Somewhere we can just breathe." And for the first 2 days, that's exactly what they did. They walked along the lake. They sat in cafes like this one. They laughed about things that had nothing to do with work. He felt lighter, like the version of himself he had buried under deadlines and expectations was finally coming back. Until now. He read the message once, then again, then a third time. Each time, it felt worse. Effective immediately. His chest tightened. "We've decided to move forward without you." His fingers curled slightly around the phone. "Your position has been dissolved as part of a restructuring." Restructuring? His jaw clenched. That wasn't restructuring. That was removal. Clean. Cold. Final. No warning. No conversation. Nothing. Just a message. Sent while he was sitting in a cafe in a different country, on the first real break he'd had in 6 years. "That's not," he muttered under his breath. "What?" His wife leaned forward slightly. "What does it say?" He looked at her. Really looked at her this time. And something in his chest shifted. "You tell me," he said quietly. Her expression flickered. Just for a second. But he caught it. "I don't know what you mean," she replied. He held up the phone. "My position is gone." Silence. Not shock. Not confusion. Silence. And that silence said more than any reaction could have. "You didn't know?" he asked. It wasn't an accusation yet. Not fully. But it was close. She hesitated. And that hesitation was loud. I didn't know it would happen like this," she said carefully. His grip on the phone tightened. "Like what?" he asked. "Like me finding out through a message while I'm sitting here? That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" People around them were starting to glance over. He lowered his voice, but the intensity didn't drop. "You knew something," he said. It wasn't a question anymore. She looked down. And that was enough. A slow, heavy realization started settling in. Not just about the job, but about her. "Before we came here," he continued, his voice quieter now, more controlled, "did your father say anything to you?" She didn't answer immediately. And every second she stayed silent made it worse. "He mentioned changes," she admitted finally. His chest felt hollow. "Changes," he repeated. "Yes, but I didn't think." "You didn't think I should know," he cut in. "I didn't know it would be you." "Who else would it be?" he snapped. Her eyes widened slightly. "That's not fair," she said. He let out a short, humorless laugh. Not fair, he repeated. I just got removed from a company I gave 6 years of my life to. And I'm finding out you had some idea this was coming, and you're talking about fair? I didn't want to ruin the trip, she said quickly. And that hit harder than anything else. Ruin the trip, he echoed. Yes, she said, her voice shaking now. You needed this. You've been exhausted, stressed. I thought maybe if we just had a few days. So you let me sit here, he interrupted, thinking everything was fine while this was happening behind my back. I was trying to protect you. From what? Reality? From him? He leaned back slightly, shaking his head. For 6 years, he had defended her. Defended her father. Defended the company. Told himself it was worth it. That it meant something. And now he was sitting in a cafe in Geneva, staring at the woman he trusted most, realizing he might have been the only one who didn't see this coming. And that thought was worse than losing the job. He looked back at the message, then back at her. When did he decide? He asked quietly. She hesitated again. And that was when he knew. Before the trip. Before Geneva. Before all of this. This wasn't bad timing. This was planned. And suddenly, the vacation didn't feel like a reward anymore. It felt like something else entirely. Something calculated. Something intentional. Something he hadn't fully understood yet. But he was starting to. And he had a feeling it was only going to get worse. He didn't touch his drink again. It sat there between them, untouched, forgotten. Like everything else that had just stopped mattering. How long? He asked. His voice was calm now. Too calm. His wife looked at him carefully, like she was trying to figure out which version of him she was dealing with. The discussion started a few weeks ago, she said. A few weeks. He nodded slowly. A few weeks, he repeated. So before we booked this trip. She swallowed. Yes. And you didn't think to tell me. I didn't know what to say, she replied quickly. Nothing was confirmed. It could have gone differently. But it didn't, he said. No. He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. Did he already decide before we left? She didn't answer. That was all the confirmation he needed. He exhaled slowly, leaning back again, staring past her now. So this trip, he muttered. It wasn't like that, she said immediately. Then what was it like? He asked, looking back at her. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like your father decided to remove me, and then sent me out of the country, so I wouldn't be there when it happened. That's not true. Isn't it? Her silence came faster this time, and heavier. I thought it would give you space, she said finally. Space, he repeated. Space for what? To process it. He let out another short laugh. Process what? Being blindsided? Being replaced? Or being the only person in the room who didn't know what was going on? I was trying to help you. No, he said, shaking his head. You were trying to manage me. That landed, he saw it in her face, the way her expression tightened. That's not fair, she said again, but this time it sounded weaker. Stop saying that, he replied. Stop saying it's not fair like that fixes anything. He picked up his phone again, scrolling through the message. There was no warmth in it, no acknowledgement of his work, no appreciation, just cold corporate language, efficient, detached, final. Did he send this himself? He asked. Yes, she said quietly. So he couldn't even call me. He thought. I don't care what he thought. He snapped a few people nearby, turned again. He lowered his voice immediately. But the anger was still there. He had 6 years to tell me anything he wanted, he continued. 6 years of watching me work myself into the ground for that company. And this is how he ends it. He didn't see it that way. How did he see it? He challenged. She hesitated. And then, carefully, she said, he thinks the company needs something different. There it was, corporate language again, clean, vague, empty. And I'm not it, he said. She didn't respond. Say it, he pushed. I didn't agree with him, she said instead. That's not what I asked. She looked down, and he felt something in his chest crack just a little more. He doesn't think you're right for where the company is going, she admitted. There it was, finally, honest, brutal, real. That he nodded slowly. After everything, he said, I know. No, you don't, he replied immediately. You don't know what it took for me to stay there. You don't know what I put up with just to prove I deserve to be there. I do know. No, you don't, he repeated, sharper this time. Because if you did, you wouldn't have sat here knowing this was coming and said nothing. Her eyes filled slightly, but he didn't soften. Not this time. You let me relax, he said. You let me believe everything was okay. I wanted you to have a few peaceful days, she said. her voice breaking now. Just a few days where you weren't stressed or worried or based on a lie, he cut in. It wasn't a lie. It was the truth you didn't tell. That hit harder than he expected because it was simple, and it was accurate. She didn't argue this time. She just sat there looking at him, tears threatening but not falling. And for a moment neither of them spoke. The noise of the cafe filled the space between them. People laughing, glasses clinking, normal life continuing like nothing had happened. But for him, everything had shifted, everything. What else don't I know? He asked suddenly. She blinked. What? If this was happening behind my back, what else? He continued. Was there anything else? Any other changes I should hear about while I'm sitting here? No, she said quickly. No, that's it. He studied her face, trying to read it, trying to decide if he still could. And you're sure about that? He asked. Yes. He held her gaze for a few seconds longer, then nodded. Okay. But it wasn't okay, not even close. He stood up slowly. We're leaving, he said. What? She asked, surprised. We're leaving. The trip. Yes. Why? He stared at her, disbelief flickering across his face. Why? He repeated. Because I just lost my job, my position, and apparently my place in your father's world. And you're asking me why I don't want to sit here pretending we're still on vacation? I just thought maybe we could talk about this properly. We are talking about it, he said. Right now. Not like this. Like what? Honestly. Emotionally, she replied. He shook his head. I think we're way past pretending emotions aren't involved. She stood up too now. Running away isn't going to fix anything. I'm not running away, he said. I'm removing myself from a situation that was clearly set up without me. That's not fair, she said again. Louder this time. He paused, looked at her, really looked at her. You keep saying that, he said quietly. But nothing about this is fair. That stopped her. For the first time since the conversation started, she didn't have a response ready. And that silence felt different this time. That he picked up his jacket. We'll figure out flights later, he said. At least finish the day, she tried. Please. He hesitated, just for a second. And in that second, something shifted again, not softer, not forgiving, just clearer. No, he said finally, because the truth was, he didn't just feel hurt anymore, he felt something else. Something colder, something sharper, something that was starting to connect pieces he hadn't fully understood yet. Because this didn't feel like a sudden decision, that IT didn't feel like bad timing, that IT felt coordinated, planned. And the more he thought about it, the more one question started forming in his mind, that if his father-in-law had decided to remove him before the trip, then why approve the vacation at all? He looked at his wife again. And this time, the question wasn't just about her silence, that IT was about her role in all of this. Did he ask you to bring me here? He asked. Her eyes widened instantly. No, she said, too fast, too defensive, and that was when the doubt turned into something much heavier. Because now he wasn't just wondering what she knew, he was starting to wonder what she had done. And that thought changed everything. Her reaction was immediate, too immediate. No, she said again, but this time her voice wasn't steady. He didn't ask me to bring you here. He didn't respond right away, he just watched her, carefully. Because now every word mattered, every pause, every choice. You didn't answer my question, he said quietly. I did, she insisted. No, he replied, shaking his head slightly. You answered a version of it. She looked away, and that was it. That was the moment something inside him settled into certainty. Not clarity, not peace, but certainty. You suggested the trip, he said. Yes. And he approved it. Yes. And this decision, this restructuring, he gestured lightly with his phone, was already in motion. She didn't speak, so I'll ask again, he continued, his voice calm but sharper now. Did he encourage you to bring me here? Her silence stretched just a second too long. Then he thought it would be a good idea, she admitted. There was then no more guessing and no more gaps, just the truth sitting between them, cold and undeniable. He let out a slow breath and nodded, almost to himself. Of course he did. It wasn't like that, she said quickly. He thought it would be easier. He finished for her. She didn't deny it because she couldn't. He thought if I wasn't there, he continued, if I was distracted, relaxed out of the way, it would go smoother. That's exactly what it is, he cut in this time. He didn't lower his voice, but a few more heads turned. But he didn't care anymore. Do you understand what that means? He asked. She shook her head slightly, even though she clearly did. It means this wasn't just a decision, he said. It was a strategy. No. Yes, he said firmly. A strategy that involved you. That hit hard. I didn't plan anything, she said, her voice breaking now. I didn't sit down with him and map this out, but you went along with it, he replied. That's not the same thing. It is when I'm the one on the other side of it. Silence, heavy, uncomfortable. Finally, he stepped back slightly, putting just a bit more space between them. Not physically far, but enough to feel it. I need you to be honest with me, he said. I am being honest. No, he replied, shaking his head. You're being careful. And right now, careful isn't enough. She wiped at her eyes quickly. What do you want me to say? She asked. The truth, he said. All of it. She hesitated, then exhaled slowly. He didn't think you were going to react well, she said. He almost smiled. Not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. So instead of talking to me, he said, he decided to remove me quietly while I was out of the country. He thought it would avoid a scene. A scene, he repeated. You mean like this? Yes, she said, her voice rising now. Exactly like this. He laughed again, but there was no humor in it. You're right, he said. How unreasonable of me to react to losing my job and finding out my own wife knew it was coming. I didn't know it would happen like this. You keep saying that, he replied. But you knew enough. That stopped her again. And he saw it, the moment she realized there was no way around that no softer version, that no way to reframe it. She knew enough, and she chose silence. Why didn't you tell me, he asked this time. His voice wasn't sharp, that it wasn't loud, that it was something else, something heavier. And somehow, that made it worse. I was scared, she said quietly. Of what? Of this, she admitted. Of how you'd react. Of how it would affect you. Of how it would affect us. So you decided for me, he said. No, you decided I shouldn't know, he continued. You decided I should come here, relax, enjoy myself, while my entire career was being taken away behind my back. I was trying to give you time. You were buying time, he corrected. She flinched slightly. Time for what? He pressed. For him to finalize everything? For the company to move on without me before I even knew what was happening. That's not what I wanted. But it's what happened. And that was the problem. Intent didn't matter anymore. Outcome did. And the outcome was clear. He was out. And she had helped make it easier, even if she didn't want to admit it. That way, he looked down at his phone again. Then back at her. Was there someone else? He asked suddenly. She frowned. What? To replace me, he clarified. Was there already someone lined up? She hesitated. And that hesitation was all he needed. There was, he said. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, he replied. This wasn't a last-minute decision. This was planned, prepared, executed. He just thought the company needed stronger leadership. He stared at her, stronger than me. That's not what I meant, but it's what you said. She shook her head, frustrated now. You're twisting everything. No, he said calmly. I'm finally seeing it clearly. Another silence, longer this time. And in that silence, something shifted again. Not in her did I end him, because up until now, there was still a part of him trying to understand, trying to justify, trying to hold on to something. But that part was fading, fast. 6 years, he said quietly. She didn't respond. 6 years of proving myself. Of showing up. Of doing everything that was asked of me, and more. I know. And in the end, he continued, none of it mattered. That's not true. It is, he said. Because if it did, he would have treated me like it mattered. She didn't argue that, because she couldn't. And you, he added, looking at her again, you would have told me. That one landed deeper than anything else. Because this wasn't about the company anymore. Not really, this was about trust. And trust was a lot harder to rebuild than a career. He took a step back. Then another. I need some air, he said. Wait, I'm not done talking, he added quickly. But I can't do this sitting here. She hesitated. Where are you going? Outside, he replied. He turned before she could say anything else. Walking out of the cafe, the noise fading behind him. The cool air hit him immediately. But it didn't help. Not really, because the more distance he put between himself and that table, the clearer everything became. This wasn't just a bad situation. That it wasn't just a harsh decision. That it was something deeper. Something intentional. And now, standing there, looking out at the water, another thought started forming. Point one that hadn't fully clicked. Until now, that if his father-in-law had gone this far, if he had planned all of this so carefully, then this wasn't just about removing him, that it was about replacing him. Position, influence, control. And suddenly he wasn't just wondering why it happened, he was wondering what came next. He glanced back toward the cafe, where his wife still was. And for the first time since all of this started, he wasn't sure if she was on his side anymore, or if she had ever really been.